something that much sooner made me feel perspired and thirsty before it just tried to just lie to me in a way that it just works for me. Why do I want to trust the media enough to just rewrite this and not just give up on just trying to broadcast? Because why do I feel like a broadcast is less written and more scripted on TV than it ends up happening to be on the fucking library's news and not the creative thing like a TV show? And why do I feel less inclined to be just so much ready to go on a thing like poetry before I just try and repeat something that I saw on TV? Why do I want to watch less TV and just more of the right shows that get me involved in the story and get me wanting to feel passionately about the story, the story that was trying to be told and not the graphics and the music and all that other shit that was just sold? Why do I feel just like I'm the one that's just way too old just to appreciate the music that ends up coming out today because too many people had to pay for more graphics than the lyrics they wanted to put work into, because too many artists tried harder to get famous and they ended up giving up before they even needed to? Because maybe if they tried a little harder, they'd all be like, a guy like I feel like he's too Irish to not even forget, like a guy like U2, or just to be on a thing like YouTube. Why do not enough people go on a thing like YouTube to just even do a podcast so that it'll end up on YouTube if he exports it that way? Why is that the right way to be writing even a thing like life before someone supports it that way? Why do I feel like all my life all I wanted to be was a fucking revolutionary? Why am I so censored by a thing like a mental hospital when it's supposed to be protecting my mental health? And somehow it just makes it worse, because it makes me the way that I end up feeling the worst first before it just allows me to just feel worse first. Why do we want to hurt the individuals that we're trying to help before we even help the individuals so they don't have to hurt? Because maybe enough people with just their words and not even just so much their actions, because they tried harder with their actions and not just harder with actions, to just try hard enough to be inspired by a thing like words, not actions. Just to say that maybe I want to just be more unstructured than, the structure that society makes me want to feel that way, that I'm controlled and not just free just to be that way. Why do I want to just do a podcast more than I ever did than I do today? Because why do I want to get the knowledge out to people and not just the control of the people? Because I want to control the people and not, the mammal that they're not even trying to be. I want to control the animal to just think for themselves and not just listen to something that they just got off the shelves before they read a book, before they decide to just, watch a TV and get a little bit lazy like I did about thinking about a thing like TV, because it makes me want to look at a TV just to say something about a TV, just to be so much more closer to creativity, because maybe I tried harder to just say something about a thing that I saw on a TV that I didn't even talk about, the messenger that I have mirrored to my phone, so much as it's not even on my phone. It's kind of on an Android PC, which feels so much more like equality to me, that I just feel like I just started rapping on a fucking podcast, because it's better than trying to rap on a beat than most of the shit that ends up on the street. Maybe I don't want to just rap and just maybe rap in a way that it sounds like poetry, that Tupac was a guy that's still relevant to me. Maybe I want to listen to more of, a guy like Slim Shady, because he tried to be controversial and he tried to break the rules before he even just said that, I'm Slim Shady and fucking Eminem rules. Maybe he wants to be less of a character and just be himself, that he's got, 3 different characters at least, but he just feels the least like a character, because at least he's being himself and not the character that he's not even trying to be the least, because every character is just a different version of Marshall Mathers and not just Slim Shady, Eminem, and Marshall Mathers, because that's just too categorized and generalized for me to be, so much more closer to a guy like fucking Slim Shady. I'm not even trying to be slim, I'm trying to be fit and muscular and fat, but I respect the guy that tried harder to be Marshall Mathers than the guy that tried to be Eminem first, because maybe he just hurt the worst people in the worst way first, because maybe that's how he wanted to be, and maybe that's why he inspires me and not a guy like Fetty Wap even tries to be inspiring. As even a guy like Designer somehow managed to inspire a thing like hatred, then most even artists even tried to just be so much of a designer to design shit that I'd be so inspired to hate like this that I wouldn't even want to insult it in a way that would be so disrespectful to even a thing like a panda as this, that I feel like I'm doing a better job at designing shit. The Designer could even design a panda, and I said that first in a rap and not in the fucking poem that I wrote down, and somehow I feel like more of you just listen to that shit and then to even want to go on the thing like DeviantArt and read some of my shit before you gotta listen to it. That's why I got so much more passionate about performing my fucking poetry and not for just, getting on a stage and performing a thing like fucking poetry, because maybe I don't think that you know enough, that you know as much as me, because maybe I don't want to think of you as knowing more or less, that I just want to know you more or less, and I just want to know enough about you before I just perform to you, every single one of you, that maybe I'm not just so much on a stage that I'm in so much of a rage that I'm angry around my entire audience, that I'm just projecting my anger and my fear onto an audience before I even project the right things onto an audience, and just have so much of an audience that it only has to be one person in a room and I could just perform to them in the way that it always ends up not working too, because maybe it just makes a thing like a person go boom before it makes them explode to just want to be in the same fucking room. Maybe I just want to be more creative about my creations and not just be more creative about, the things that are supposed to give me inspirations and aspirations and dreams, to want to be like that and want to, see like that and hear like that, because I want to listen to that. Why do I want to even just talk back before I want to listen to the person that doesn't even say that? Maybe I feel so much more inclined to disrespect the one that's trying to influence me to shut the fuck up and not just speak in a way that it's just so much more creative, that it ends up just being said with creativity before it just ends up being said with negativity, that I'm being creatively optimistic, not just optimistic just to fuck a person, not just to miss it. The opportunity that you get to meet someone so fucking realistic that maybe I'm just real and not just fucking fake enough than the rest of your friends even tried to be. Maybe you want to be a little bit more like you, but it's only that feeling that's inside of me. Maybe I didn't even need to be a little bit like a guy like Slim Shady, but I want him closer to me, because maybe I want him to be a little bit more like me, because I feel like I'm not better or worse than a guy like Slim Shady before I think he's better or worse first, because maybe I just want to spit a verse and I don't want to criticize the ones that did it right first, and maybe I just respect enough times about how many times I choked on my lyrics that I'm killing this in one take on a podcast before I even want to take a fucking break. Maybe I just want to just keep on flowing because I was inspired by the artist that just told me to keep on going, to not even just give up if you feel like you're gonna collapse, because it's till I collapse and not just I'm gonna fucking collapse. Maybe I just want to just fall before I let my fucking legs fucking flap, before a woman lets hers fucking flaps, because maybe I just have that much more respect for myself to not respect enough about femininity to just try harder to be a fucking human being, even though I'm not trying that hard to be a human, because it's too easy to be a man and not easy to be a fucking thing with so much creativity is a fucking poetry writer and a fucking entertainer. Then the rest of humanity, controlled by society, even tries to be controlled and not just free. Maybe I want to be a little bit more free to help a little bit more people get free, because I don't want to be in prison so much as I don't want the next guy to be next to me in a thing like a cell, because maybe I don't want to have one single cell to just confine me and just trap me into being a single cell organism. Maybe I want to be a cellular organism that exists within a thing like society, to just treat it more like a jungle like the rest of us animals do, to just treat it a little bit more like fucking freedom. Maybe I want to just rap in just a way that it sounds like more spoken word than most of the rap tried to sound like fucking poetry before they tried harder to just fuck up rap before it just got fucked up by me in the right way that you still want to keep on listening because it's live and not offline, and it's just got the right things for you to see to just want to even just listen to a guy like me. Maybe that's the better way for me to project my fucking creativity onto you before you listen to a guy like me and tell him to shut up before you even tell him to just not say enough. Maybe I just want to keep going until someone fucking stops me, because maybe I don't even need to be stopped as much as knowing the fuck in this world is gonna stop me from being creative enough to respect enough about creativity. That's the way I prefer to be. That's the way I'm always gonna be. I'm gonna be creative before I want to even be a thing like ignorant, because ignorance is bliss, and somehow I feel better speaking in a way like this, because most people are ignorant and they don't even have enough bliss to just be happy enough about a thing like a disability or a disorder. As a guy like this, I feel more like the real Batman, because I feel like I'm actually trying to save people before I try to insult them. Maybe I don't feel like I need to use a thing like my fist before I even assault them. Maybe I don't even feel like I don't even need to just use my words enough before, the guy that's supposed to protect my rights would much rather shoot them. And maybe the drug dealer that's giving me the thing that's supposed to make me feel better, but maybe it's just too much of a chemical to feel good about a thing like taking cocaine or fucking heroin, or, I don't even know the psychological effects to just even name a thing like a chemical that rhymes like, with a thing like biological, just to say that I don't even know enough of chemical to keep on rhyming about a chemical, because that's how uncomfortable it makes me feel to just not want to rhyme about a fucking chemical, because maybe it's just not that so much more chemically imbalanced and just a little bit just less unnatural. Maybe I had to break that down just to help you understand, because maybe I don't understand, and man that tries to demand that I understand, because maybe I want to be more of a disability, because it feels to me like it's just more of a super ability, because maybe I just had the creativity to spell that shit out for you guys before I just end this shit with was just saying, you know what? I'm the one that feels like Batman, not the one that had to be on a fucking silver screen to make you feel like you could be. I'm the one trying to save you and the whole entire world. So maybe you should listen to me before you listen to the people that, a thing like TV and, a thing like a theater, so much as the galaxy inspired you to just be and not just listen to what you should be and less of what you need to be, to just listen to yourself. If you ever want to be like me, I don't care if you don't want to, I want you to be.